Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robin, this is Digital Wilds, and welcome to a very special one-off. Now, I promised this on Twitter because I had some problems with the latest episode of Resident Evil 4, so to cheer you up a little bit, I thought I'd play one of my favourite old games from the Game Boy Advance days. It is Wario Land 4. Now, this is a game that is very dear to my heart, and I love the Wario games anyway. I think they're a really good example of inventive level design, really clever mechanics, lovely art style, and just explore a side of the Mario platformer universe that the main games just don't really get into in terms of tone. And that's this kind of gross, anarchic, weird sub-genre of Mario that only existed for a few years in the late 90s and was part of this trope in Nintendo games in the early 2000s as well, with things like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga and Pikmin and Wario Land 4, where you had this kind of colourful anarchism that I think just worked brilliantly. So, without further ado, I think we should get going. And so we're into the game with the entry passage. Now, as you'll see, if you are familiar with the later Wario games of WarioWare and maybe some of his appearances in the Mario sports games, this is very, very different. This is a platformer in a style that is completely its own, rather unlike the Mario platformers it originally span off from. This is no real descendant of the Mario Land games. They were more of an excuse title to introduce Wario to the world. Now, as you'll see, you can shoulder barge enemies, you can butt slam, there's a very visceral feeling to a lot of the actions in this game, which makes it feel sort of more heavy almost than a Mario game, but with more crunchy weight to it. As you'll see, we are also collecting treasure as we go. We're trying to collect coins. Those who've played the previous Wario Land games, which is probably a few of you, will recognise that this has a health bar, unlike Wario Lands 2 and 3, where there was no way for Wario to properly die. It was more a case of him transforming into various forms, many of which could be inconvenient and push him further back in the level as a sort of punishment for failure. This takes a more traditional health-based approach, but it doesn't abandon the different costumes and transformations that Wario can go through, because there's still all sorts of things, you know, bats and fire Wario and spring Wario, which make this game just a joy to explore. So for an hour or so today, I thought let's just get through as much of this game as we can, see where we go, and see how it compares to some of the older games in the series. In some ways, Wario Land 3 was almost more complex than this. It had more levels, it had a kind of Metroidvania-style explorative gameplay thing going on, where you had to revisit levels multiple times. This is much more your straightforward one level after another platformer, but it is kind of forgivable because this was one of the earliest games released on the Game Boy Advance. I'm not sure if it was a launch title, but it certainly came very on in the console's life. And so they were kind of using it as a bit of a tech demo to show off how many colours they could have on screen, how much they could do with the sound chip, and all sorts of different technical achievements they had to show off, as well as just the standard gameplay stuff. So you'll see here how we have to use enemies as sort of platforming objects in the game. You can stand on them without killing them. There's no sort of jump to kill enemies in this. You have to actually butt stomp them. While explaining that, I managed to do myself out of 1,000 points with the diamond there by not jumping off the chest and getting it, but that's the sort of sacrifice you make. This does, like the other Wario games, take an approach where the amount of treasure you get can determine the ending you get. But with this, it's only a very minor adjustment, which I don't think we'll get to today. But ultimately, the princess you rescue, her attractiveness is based on the amount of treasure Wario has collected throughout the game, which is suboptimal as a feminist message, but gets the point across about how the player's done. And so we jump on the frog. which gives us 1 minute to get to that portal and exit the level. Now, obviously, this is a lot easier than it will be in subsequent levels, but it's a nice bit of player training before we head off to the first boss. So we get all 4 pieces of that gem, which allows us to progress. We need to gather 4 pieces of the gem from each level in each corridor, which will allow us to enter the boss door and take on that stage's boss. There are 4 worlds in this game, plus the little intro passage that we are passing through now. Each one contains 4 levels, plus a minigame section, plus a boss. So there is a decent amount of gameplay in here for one of the Game Boy Advance's earliest titles. So you'll see if we head in here, we can play the minigame shop, which has given us a nice discount on the cost to play its minigames. I'm going to try and show off one of each of these, because I've got enough gems to do it. Wario's Home Run Derby is, to my mind, the best one. You have to play this game side-on, which is less than ideal if you're not playing on an original Game Boy Advance, like spoiler alert, I'm not. The goal is pretty obvious, not to do that, but instead to actually hit the ball and get a home run. And you'll see there we have a home run. The goal ultimately is to earn medals, which is that meter on the top left of the screen, or the top left of the screen as it would be if it was sideways. And by getting those, we can unlock bonus upgrades, which we can use to deal damage to the boss we're about to face, which makes the game a little bit easier. You need 3 home runs in order to win 1 medal, and I believe the cheapest upgrades cost 2 medals, so you cannot really get away with only playing these minigames a couple of times. You need to put some serious time into them if you want to get the reward of taking out the boss a little bit easier. Fortunately, getting a home run does clear your strikes, and like in real baseball, getting a foul does not count as an extra strike if you're on 2 strikes. So there is a little bit of forgiveness in this. As we see there, although we got a foul, we can hit it again. By watching the movements of the head of the pitcher, you can monitor what kind of throw they're going to do, but I'm a bit rusty on this game, so we'll see there, I strike out. The other good one is the Wario Hop, which is a much more traditional runner-style game where you're just trying to jump over obstacles, as you'll see. Unlike most runner games which came about later, this plays from right to left, which is a rather odd way to do it, but this is Wario, so we have to expect a certain amount of strangeness. There's a bit of alignment with the music here. It's kind of a rhythm-based minigame. Unfortunately, my sense of rhythm is not great. Now, unlike the home run minigame where we had to get 3 hits to win a medal, I think in this one you need to get, 15 to get a medal, which, given the much easier task of jumping over things, is a reasonable trade-off. I'll be very surprised if I can break 50 here, but we'll see. It doesn't stay this easy for long, sadly. There will be a significant speed up soon. Yep, and with hopping over that drummer, we suddenly get a lot faster. We can still use the rhythm to try and guess when things are coming up, though. Like so. Oh, and there we go. Yeah, didn't quite make 50, but we got 42. It's up to 3 medals, which I think is reasonable. I failed an attempt at the home run derby off-screen, so I'm just going to quickly replay the intro level off-screen to get some more coins so I can show you Wario's Roulette. So with that, we've got another 9,000 coins, and I'm going to show you Wario's Roulette. To my mind, this is the weakest of the minigames. I never normally play it. Basically on a face matching quest, and you have to have a look at the face that is presented to you and then match it with the rotating features that rotate in front of you. Now, you're given no real time limit to do this, and honestly I don't find it particularly interesting. But much like with the baseball game, I think every 3 of these you get a medal, so it can be a reasonably easy way of doing it. Especially if you are good enough to remember the faces presented to you the first time round. I'm going to try and go for another medal so we can get 6, see how we go. Ah, so the amount of time you're shown the face fall gets smaller and smaller each time, I see. I've never actually played this game long enough to be able to tell. There we go. That takes us to 6 medals. Oh no, I got it wrong. I'm out. Still, that leaves us with a healthy medal count of 6, so let's proceed to Spoiled Rotten, the first boss. Along with the cat who we chased in here in the intro cutscene, we find the item shop manned by this strange stick figure. We can't actually access the higher tiers of reward yet, but I'm going to pick the highest one we can, which is the Bugle. This allows us to hire this guy to take it into the boss room with us. And essentially make the boss easier for us by cheating. So this is Spoiled Rotten, a giant grotesque strawberry baby thing with a doll that it swings around as a weapon, which is really rather unpleasant. Still, the Bugle inflicts some relatively easy early hits, taking it down to only 2 HP, so this should not be a difficult boss as it already transforms into its grotesque second stage. If we can get behind it, that's the main task. Or just bash it in a way that doesn't get into its teeth, apparently. And there it goes. Spoiled Rotten is done. And we have beaten the tutorial stage. So, with this rather lovely Hawaiian hippie-style background, Wario celebrates, and we head further into the pyramid, which now widens, and begins to show us our ultimate goal. It's a rather lovely golden pyramid in the centre. Now, we are given access to 4 passageways. We've got the Sapphire Passage, which, just to show you quickly, is the Horror Passage, contains the Crescent Moon Village as our starting level. We've got the Topaz Passage, where we can explore Toy Block Tower. We've got the Sound Room, we'll come to that later. We've got the Ruby Passage, where we start out in the Curious Factory. And we've got the Emerald Passage, which is the nature-themed levels, which is Palm Tree Paradise. I'm going to start with Palm Tree Paradise, and we'll see where we go from there. So we find ourselves in this rather lovely, relaxing, idyllic landscape with some rather lovely Japanese singing going on in the background. So the first chest is here, very obviously left out in the open for us, which is rather nice. I think this is rather designed to be the first level because it's really very easy. We've got very few difficult enemies and they just like to walk back and forth in easy patterns. The diamond pieces are presented to us as we go rather than having to be hunted for, and there's very few hidden areas, although I think there's one here, which I will show off in a second. If we jump up here, yes, we've got an invisible wall hiding a lovely diamond, which gives us points, which we can then use as to access minigames to make the bosses easier. Now, we've also got this cave, which I'll head into briefly. We get the first enemy we have to do a little bit of puzzling with. So this guy, obviously, if we jump on him, we get hurt, but if we butt slam, we can turn him on his back and then butt slam him again for a free kill. Now, there goes diamond piece number 3. We climb up here, we see the first of these purple pipes. These are not plot relevant, but they take us to Dr. Scienstein, or whatever he's called, who can not only be bullied by Wario, but also used as a kind of puzzle object. So if we chuck him up there and activate that brick, we can then get the diamond. Now, these puzzle levels only ever give you a diamond, and because you only get 1,000 for a diamond, it isn't, to my mind, particularly useful, because although we were given a discounted rate on the minigames when we played against Spoiled Rotten, we usually have to pay a lot more. It's 5,000 to go, so you need 5 diamonds just to get 1 go on the minigames, which, I don't know, seems a little bit stingy to me. Now, if we break through into this little hidden area, we get this chest, which is rather different from the full heal chest you saw in the training level, or from the diamond piece chests. Instead, we get a CD, which will allow us to take that to the sound room back in the pyramid and listen to the soundtrack of the level, which I'm not really convinced why you'd ever do that, because if you wanted to listen to the soundtrack of the level, you could just load up the level and actually play it, but it's a rather nice touch. So this guy is familiar from older Wario games and throws fruit, which if it hits Wario, turns him into Fat Wario, so he can't jump very high, and if he does a normal jump, he does a ground pound, but if I jump on there, it'll take us down into this watery area. So Wario can swim very well as well. We press B to dash, and we'll collect all this treasure. Plus, if we activate that block and head back up, we get access to this puzzle level here. And there we go. And now, if we belt him overarm through those blocks and do a nice little crouch jump, we can get in there and get the diamond and leave him to drown, apparently. Oh, no, he's got a snorkel. The snorkel is not reaching the surface, which is what you need for a snorkel to work, but I'm not going to think about the horrific implications of that for now. Instead, I'll just proceed onwards through the level. Now, if we change the blocks back, we can jump up and get the eagle key, which we need to unlock the next level. That's one of the things you must retrieve if you are to complete this level. And if we hit the frog switch, that will activate the bomb, giving us only 90 seconds to rush back. But if we hold down R to shoulder barge, we can make a decent amount of progress very, very quickly indeed. Particularly now that we've noticed that second invisible wall, which allows us to charge straight back to the start of the level without any further interruptions. So we have quite a generous time allowance on this one, because we get back with over 70 seconds to spare, and move on to the next level. So the second level we come to is Wildflower Fields, which, as the name might imply, is a rather more gardeny flower-based level than the previous Desert Island stage. And as we see here, we get our introduction to the bee enemies, which, as well as stinging Wario, although it doesn't actually hurt him, will inflate him and allow him to float up to higher areas of the level. When you're stung as Wario, there's this slight warbliness to the music, which is slightly grotesque, but also, I think, really captures the mood. This game's real strength is in its music and its sound design. A lot of the sound effects are borrowed from previous Wario games, which I don't mind, really, as a bit of a nice nod to the previous games in the series, because this one is rather different to Wario Lands 2 and 3. But it does mean that if you played those games, you will definitely recognise the charge noise, for example. So we'll head back down to ground level and try not to get stuck again. If you do, you can just bump into the roof and that will help matters. I'm not sure quite what those caterpillars are for, other than to just kill to earn points, which seems rather mean of Wario, but he's not exactly known for his generosity. So, duly stung, we can butt slam into that block and see what's down here. So as well as a decent amount of treasure, we've got some enemies we're going to need to take out. These drill guys who throw up spiky objects. Okay, I only have 2 health left now. This might actually get quite dangerous. I managed to bugger that up. So if you butt slam, you can knock the moles out of the ground, and then they are open to attack, so they don't throw the spiky objects up at you anymore. Now if we grab this here and chuck it upwards, we can destroy that block. And if we head back over here, run along and collect the spoils that remain. Which, it turns out, is just a diamond, which isn't hugely valuable, if I'm honest, but will help us a little bit. So, as in previous games, enemies can be picked up and chucked at each other as weapons, which I rather like as a piece of strength saving from Wario. Another puzzle level here. If we chuck Einstein over this wall, and over this wall, we can use him to jump off and collect the diamond. Thanks, dude. So we find a cave within a cave, which not only is in a completely different graphical style, it is largely underwater. So you'll see these water flows carry us irresistibly in a certain direction, and we've got to try and manipulate them as far as possible to get to where we need to go, which in this case is to the first of the diamond pieces. And also a whole lot of treasure. So these enemies, obviously they're pointy on top and at the front, so you have to attack them from the back or the side. So as expected, if we head the other way, we can collect a decent amount of treasure from this path, as well as breaking that block and discovering a diamond. We'll head out of this door and find more water levels, which take us all the way at the top via transpiration to this tree. So if we can get out here. Looks as though it's going to be a boss arena, but isn't. But does allow us to drop down here, take out enemies, and get another chest. So we now have 2 of the diamond pieces for this level, as well as the full heart refill, which is very nice. So can't get through there to the eagle key yet until we hit the frog switch, but we can head this way. And if we get artfully stung, head over here while the frog switch is inactive. Well, it's just a diamond, but it's not to be sniffed at. We get our 3rd diamond piece from the ground, and if if I'm correct, we'll want to get turned into Big Wario here so that we can break through that block. And also, if we're clever, head down here. Which, while not plot relevant, as far as I'm aware, does give us a large amount of treasure and access to another puzzle room. We love our puzzle rooms, so knock over Einstein, chuck him up at that block. There we go, a nice hit on the second block. So after more attempts than I care to count, we've got him atop this block and can belt him through there and go and collect our diamond. Not going to answer the question of how Einstein is going to find his way down. We can hit the frog switch at this point. I'm only 3 diamonds in, but I'm hoping I can find it on the way down. So we'll see. Okay, we've got the eagle key. So we can at least proceed to the next level, even if we'll have to do this level again if we want to find the boss. We'll quickly roll down here and see what we can get out of it. And here we go, we find the 4th diamond piece on our way back. So if we start to roll, this will help us bash our way through any blocks and make it back to the entrance much more rapidly, as well as getting a large amount of treasure. We bash our way through here, we find ourselves at the vortex. So that ended up being easier than I thought. We collected the key, we've collected all 4 diamond pieces, and we can proceed. But I think I'm going to show you a different corridor next. It's one of my favourites. It's the Topaz Corridor. So as promised, we're in the Topaz Passage, and this is Toy Block Tower. As you might guess from the name, this is a level that is entirely toy-based, as is the entirety of this passage, which makes it, I think, my favourite part of the game. So we can pick up these shapes, we can jump with them, we can slot them into these doors, and this is how we make progress in this level. This is a rather more puzzle-based passage than some of the others, and I think it's one of my favourites as a result. Unfortunately, it's also possible to block yourself off like that with some of the indestructible blocks, but now we'll start going through these doors and smash those little toy Warios with their pointy cars that have caused me so much injury over the many times I've played this game. That's more like it. So we can use this as a staging post to climb this tower. So we bash that ball into there, and that lets us have access to this area. We can collect 600 coins, plus the 10 I get from killing that little Wario. We bash him from underneath as well. He becomes flipped over, and we can use him to chuck at his buddy. Sadly, you don't get any additional points for that. There's no sort of trick shot multipliers. Oh well, we'll charge through here. Don't forget to climb up there and charge through those as well, where you can get several hundred in treasure and an extra heart of health. Very nice. So back through this door, smash the little Wario through here, and we get our first Fire Wario experience of the game. So let him drop the fire on top of us. That block can only be smashed by Wario when he's burning at a certain level, specifically when he is actually on fire before he turns into a little crust and respawns. Now, that was our first bit of player training, but obviously water puts Wario out. We've also got to find a way to climb this tower before we burn out entirely, which we managed to do quite skillfully, I must say, on the first run through. So the triangle in place, we can head through here, which gives us an opportunity I've messed up to climb up further up. So destroy those. And we destroy one of these, which gives us a climbable platform. Now there's the eagle key, which we'll want to get at some point soon, but not quite yet. Instead, we head through this door, and back on fire we go. I rather brilliantly managed to not get the diamond piece there, so I'll have to get back to that in a minute. Do not want to jump on that frog yet, because I'd quite like to see what's behind this door. Oh. Just some little guys who managed to injure me. And some treasure. There might be more to it than this. In Wario games, there's quite often destructible walls, destructible floors, but not, it looks like, on this occasion. So now that we've got no other option, let's hit the frog switch. We've got 4 minutes, so there's still a bit of exploration to do here. And we'll get that diamond piece to start with. Have to destroy the blocks in the opposite order this time, and we'll get the eagle key. Can't head back through there now that the frog blocks have spawned, so let's then head down this tube, get a butt slam going, and hit box number 2. So lovely, 2 pieces of the diamond. The topaz gem, I suppose it probably is. So we need to knock that ball into place, go and retrieve the triangle, which is over here behind these blocks I just destroyed, and slot it handily into that door. Not quite sure where this leads. Ah, it gets us the CD, very nice. Not entirely essential, but a nice bonus. Head up this red pipe, and get the 3rd of the diamond pieces. If I was clever, I'd be able to get up there, but I'm not, so I can't. So back outside, we climb up here. We're still distressingly lacking in the fourth diamond piece, which the location of which I'm not entirely sure on. Here we go. We've managed to find it just at the last second, with 54 seconds to spare. Turns out, just going through the door that was there right at the start of the level that I forgot about was actually the solution. So, with all 4 of those in place and the eagle key, we proceed through the vortex. So having pressed our way through that level, I'm just going to pop over to the Ruby Passage, which is the mechanical slash industrial passage, and show you what the aesthetic there is like. So you'll see this is rather grittier and not as much joyous colour as you got in the Topaz Passage. We have very spiky robot enemies, which have to be butt slammed after they've attacked. We've got moving walkways, we've got these curious devices, which we'll encounter more of in a second, and we've got these spinning platforms, which react to being jumped on. Players who've played Metroid Fusion, which is another early Game Boy Advance title, might find some similarities in the engine here, because it's the same engine. They were built using the exact same code. They just use different art assets and music and so on. The block destruction mechanics are where you'll see it most evidently. It's rather elegant that they managed to get 2 incredibly good Game Boy Advance games out of this. So, in keeping with Wario's traditions, if we get stamped by those big industrial hammers, we turn into Flat Wario, and when we go through these machines here, we get restored to our normal self. So that will, as you probably come to expect, result in puzzles down the line. So Science is here. He needs to be exploited in some manner, which I think means being thrown through here to turn that bridge on, at which point we can turn into Rolling Wario, bash through and get the diamond. One of the more simple puzzle levels in this game. Go through here, get smashed by a hammer, get turned back into Flat Wario. I'm not sure there's much advantage to being smashed by the hammer at this stage, but it does come up useful in puzzles later on because, as we'll see, it allows Wario to float. And here we go. So we're in yet another climby room. If we can smash that wall, might be able to get some goodies out of it. Oh, another puzzle room. Excellent. But this one actually is in keeping with the theme of the level, which is nice. So you'll see here, Wario floats as though a piece of paper on the breeze if he is smashed into a flat state, which you don't always want. First, I think we need to get past here and throw that rock. And throw that rock before we are relieved of its control by the stamping hammer. Now we need to go flat. So by not jumping, we get our angle just right to go and firstly hit the water so we can turn back into normal Wario. Hop up these platforms here, grab the rock, make sure it does not go in the water, or it will be lost to you. Like so. And throw it through there. Back over here. You don't need to be flat for this, you can be. I don't find it particularly useful, because all you need to be doing is crouching, and you can get through that 1 block high gap, and the diamond is yours. And so this puzzle is rather obvious in this solution, because we can only go one place while on fire, and it's through that block. However, there's not much there, so I think that's just player training for if they haven't got very far in the game yet, and they haven't done the big board, or not the big board, the toy tower. And we get the diamond, and head up this ladder to what I can only assume is the same level we were just in, except without any further blocks to burn and still on fire. There's a rather sinister giant robot being built in the background to this level, which I've only just noticed. I wonder if it's meant to be a representation of Rudy the Clown, who was the main villain of Wario Land 3, of course. It's entirely feasible, but it could, of course, just be a generic robot. So it's slightly hidden away, but if you drop down the gap between the second and third of these rotating conveyor belts, you can hit the frog, which, while it does impose a time limit on our progression through this level, it does mean that we can open up some new areas and therefore actually get it finished. So, climb back up here. You'll see that the way back to the left has been locked off, but fortunately, the way off to the right has been opened. So we take out that guy, head down here, collect as much treasure as we can on the way down, but be slightly mindful of the time limit. And get get stamped over here to the left. Unfortunately, this also slows us down. Now that we hit the frog block, we can head down here. Well, we're really up against it with the time limit here. I'm going to have to do some adept platforming to be able to get through this alive. This has turned out to be a surprisingly difficult level. We get a diamond, but unfortunately, we've still only got 3 of the 4 diamond pieces, which is less than ideal. So we'll head up this pipe. We've got a very concerningly small amount of time left, to be honest. But we do have the 4th diamond piece at last, so if we can get back to the exit within the next 36 seconds, we should be home and dry. That might be easier said than done, though. This was not a good run, frankly. We took a lot more risks than we should have done and only made it back with 23 seconds to spare. But we did at least get through. So with that, I'm just going to pop over to the Sapphire Passage and show you the last of the levels for this episode. Just going to pop in here and we'll enter the horror zone. Spooky. So in common with previous Wario games, I can be turned into a zombie, which will allow me to fall through thin platforms, as we'll quickly demonstrate by letting this chap hit us with some green goo. And if I jump through, I fall. I can only reverse this state by hitting some light or hitting some water. So we swim down here. We can at least get some extra health. Being zombified does not hurt Wario, but it can be seriously frustrating if you're trying to get through the game in any kind of a hurry. These guys are not your friends. They will axe you in the face, given half a chance. And this guy is also a pain, because while he's not a threat at the moment, he can cause you serious problems later on when you're trying to get the eagle key back to the exit. So if we hit that to turn the blocks on, we can hop our way up here, grab that diamond. So if we get bitten by a bat, we turn into the other spooky Wario, which is Bat Wario. So just as with it being a zombie, if I get hit by light, I turn back, but it does let me flap up to higher ledges, which makes it significantly more useful than just dropping through thin platforms. As you'll see here, if I am Bat Wario and I avoid these candles, I can hop my way up to this higher ledge. I might also have the solution to a puzzle here. Yes, indeed. So if I hop over here, I get the first quarter of the diamond. So through here, butt stomp that guy, jump over and dodge Mr. Giant Pirate. Take a leap of faith off here, and I end up on this lower... I'm going to smash my way through these for treasure. Not that we'll get much out of it. And also for the second of these diamond pieces. Roll from here on down, and you'll see that notch in the wall that we made earlier can be busted through while rolling and get us the CD for this level. So head off to the right, and we find ourselves in another sort of puzzle room. If we can take out this axeman, you'll see what the ideal solution is there, which is to roll through those blocks. But how to do it? Well, if you hit that, you knock them in half, and they turn it into a nice little ramp for us. Oh, bugger. So I've been turned into a zombie, which necessitates a trip back to the light. This is one of the areas of the game where being a zombie is not advantageous, but is in fact actually quite annoying. However, we can push through there and get the third of the diamond pieces. This level is proceeding much more smoothly than the previous one, frankly. The ruby passage is the, to my mind, the most tricky of the passageways through the game. There's some really difficult platforming in there and some quite confusing level design. It's also, because of the grim sort of industrial aesthetic, it's actually a bit less fun to play than the Topaz or this spooky passage. So instead of getting a diamond on this level, we actually just get the collected treasure from all of those enemies by chucking Science Style into the water and then following him through the gap, and then they charge at me into the water where they insta-die, and we can collect all their coins. Excellent. So the temptation is to jump straight down there, but I'm going to first head over here and see if there isn't something I can collect. Ah yes, I see. So if we hop up here as Bat Wario, we can at least get the... before setting off the frog bomb, I will go through this underwater section and try and gather some more treasure. Ah yes, which turns out to be necessary as we now have the entire diamond and the CD very, very early on. So, it should be a relative walk in the park to get this level done. Okay, so... with the bomb activated, we need to turn into Bat Wario at the earliest opportunity. Navigate this maze to get the eagle key. turn back into normal Wario and back through the door. Now, we're on the timer, and as you'll see, the pirate becomes a significant issue because he will take the eagle key off us, and he cannot be defeated or attacked. He can only have the key snatched back off him, which is not always the easiest thing to do. Now, we've got plenty of time on the clock, and we fortunately know mostly where we're going. But still, if you're not careful, it can be a real challenge. He's not so much of a troll that you can't usually get it back off him, but it's a significant waste of time, and you can't leave the area without the key, so if you want to finish it, you're going to have to just chase him down. Okay, jump over him and through the door, and now we're inside, we're safe from him, so we can proceed back the way we came. That will be mine, thank you. Back up here, and we're back to the upper section of the level, which means we are nearing the beginning. Still got 2 minutes on the clock, which should be plenty. Do not want to be turned into a bat at this point, nor a zombie, so we'll try and stay out of the way of ghosts and those fellas. I think that was the penultimate outside area. If we can just get through this inner haunted mansion with footprints all over the walls, as it appears to be, climb back down here, and we are clear. 94 seconds still on the clock, got the CD, got all 4 diamond parts. That is a good run in my view. So, now that we've done that, I think I'm going to round this episode off for now. I hope that you've got the point. I think it has got across why I love this game so very, very much. It's colourful, it's bright, it's action-filled, the levels have variety and heart. Wario himself is such an engaging character to look at visually. He has such great sound effects. I just love Wario Land 4. So if you have the opportunity to pick it up at any point, it's available very, very cheap used on GBA at this point. I absolutely recommend it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you can tolerate the episode of Resident Evil 4 that's coming out tomorrow. If you like other series I've got up on the channel, there's a very strange game for the GameCube from 2002 called Cubivore, which I'm playing an ongoing series of. I'll have another episode of that up on Sunday. And on Wednesdays, we're playing through Darkest of Days, which is a rather strange 2009 first-person shooter. So, plenty to get on with. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. If you like this, you can subscribe to this channel. That would be ideal, so I can help this YouTube thing get off the ground. And I will see you next time. Thanks very much.